I used to think that if I wasn't drawing, painting, or sketching artwork for my business, I was procrastinating. I think I used to have this idea that I could only equate productivity with an actual physical or tangible product at the end of the task. Whether it was a sketch or a completed illustration for a client or a webcomic, if I didn't have something to show at the end of the day, I must have been wasting my time. But what I've come to realize over the years as a creative person is that a huge part of creativity is not always the physical creation of the art. A great deal of creating our artwork is just sitting with our thoughts, conjuring up ideas in our brain, soaking up inspiration that is around us from galleries, books, movies, comics, and so on. Some of my best ideas for illustrations come to me during exercise, which I use as a form of meditation. Doing something very physical, repetitive, and forces me to use other muscles and senses of my body somehow always ends up with me having this flash of a great idea for my webcomics or a way to solve an illustration problem for a client. Now, to someone on the outside of all this, it probably looks like I'm procrastinating. If you've been sitting at your drawing board for an hour and they've walked past several times and noticed you still haven't drawn anything, and you're just staring out the window watching the birds, to them it looks like you're procrastinating. But you're probably not. Your brain is working on an imaginary canvas inside your head that's coming up with thousands of iterations for your idea before you commit to that final piece that you want to create. Now, the problem for us as creatives, and maybe you can relate to this, is that we want to prove to those around us that we are not procrastinating. So we quickly sketch out something or paint a piece that we're not really happy with, but we feel that we have to get something out there. I think social media especially feeds into this by telling us that we need to post more each day in order to stay relevant, get noticed, and gain followers. And sure, the more you practice doing something, the better you will get at it. I'm a big advocate for just doing the thing rather than worrying about what it will look like compared to others' work, because by practicing something more often, you improve your skills and get better. But there is no point in forcing the creativity to create something that you don't enjoy and looks like a pile of garbage. You won't be proud of it, and it will probably force you to judge your work harshly. Because you'll constantly be comparing yourself to your peers and wondering why you're not as good as they are. Procrastination and productivity, it's a fine line. Bob Ross, the guy who painted all those happy little trees and had a big fro, he was a prolific painter. He found his medium and style and painted quickly and frequently, churning out thousands of paintings, and I'm guessing he was happy with most of them. Then compare that to Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa, which apparently took him 16 years to paint. Now, I'm sure he wasn't sitting at the easel for 16 hours a day working on the same painting all that time, but he was definitely not a procrastinator. So unlike an office job where you might have to punch in some numbers on a keyboard for data entry or take 50 phone calls a day to reach your quota, sometimes you just can't measure productivity in art. But that doesn't mean you are not being productive. Before I go, I want to give a shout out to a webcomic I was recently introduced to called Full Fighters by Oscar Ramirez Mesa. Now, the webcomic is in Spanish, but Oscar does intend to translate it down the track to English when it's finished. But you have got to check it out just to see what is possible in the webcomic medium. Give him some love and take a look at the beautiful watercolor artwork he has created for this fun take on the Street Fighter characters. I'll leave a link below where you can check it out, and links to my webcomic too. Thanks for watching. Let's talk soon.